Nobody wants to lose readers. So what if we try to keep them with some cliffhangers? Let's try that. See you soon. Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fiction.
And I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're a Christian writer looking for practical tips, encouragement, and writing craft help, and maybe even a little bit of shenanigans here and there, you're definitely in the right place. So we try to help indie authors write with excellence, publish with confidence, and just create a great community of Christian writers so they have a place to hang out and talk. So if you would like to join this conversation, please join us over on YouTube every Friday at 10 a.m. If you are a listener as a podcast, we love YouTube. Please like and subscribe in whatever format that you listen to us. But it would also be appreciated if you just go over to YouTube and give us a follow as well. We already have a person in our chat this morning. Good morning, Catherine. Awfully early on a Friday morning for some people, so we know that, but we appreciate everyone who can join us here. Ladies, let's start with our topic of the day. We'll get into our what's up later on, but we're talking today about cliffhangers. I gotta get down to the topic here, you guys.
Stay tuned for the feeding of the backs.
Yeah, that's definitely later. So if you follow us, you'll see, if you look in the show notes, you'll see that we always add what the prompt is for the day. And so today's prompt is we had to write a cliffhanger ourselves. But all right, so we would like to start off talking about cliffhanger. Sorry, guys, I'm a little discombobulated because I realized we didn't decide who was going to be hosting, and so I just jumped in and I wasn't ready. So it's gonna be a messy episode. So just giving you a heads up.
Situation normal.
It's situation normal. Yes, this is actually very true. All right, ladies, what is a cliffhanger? Let's just start with a simple definition.
Well, imagine if you are walking along and you looked up and there was a literal man dangling from a cliff by his fingers. There was it Between the Lions that had Cliffhanger, who was actually going to teach you something about reading or whatever. And anyway, imagine the tension you would feel wondering, oh my word, is this person going to fall? Is he going to be rescued? And what we're talking about is the writing equivalent of that feeling. We want to evoke that feeling in your writers by giving them a cliffhanger.
Agreed.
Right. So it's like a question that they need to be needs to be answered, or just what's going to happen. Oh no, like there's something terrible and we don't know what's going to happen. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't have to literally be a person hanging off a cliff. That was just my example.
That's the exact picture that I had when you started saying it. I was going to say there was this show my kids used to watch with a guy hanging from the...
His name was Cliffhanger. Yeah.
Right.
There was actually a show with a guy named Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a segment. You know how in children's shows they will have they'll break away to an outtake of something. Well, Cliffhanger was like a repeating excerpt on. I'm gonna find out what show.
I think it was Between the Lions.
Yes.
It was kind of like the Wile E. Coyote of the Bugs Bunny show. Like you'd be watching Bugs Bunny, and then suddenly Wile E. Coyote would come. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
And
all right.
His name was literally Cliffhanger, and he was hanging off the. It was like this big muscle dude, and he was all hanging off the cliff.
Yeah,
was it literally like you didn't know what was going to happen next?
The problem is I'm trying to because I didn't pay much attention to what he said or did, but he had a really catchy jingle, Cliffhanger, you know what I mean? And so I knew that he was there, but he basically, let's see, he gets I don't know, this is just a particular episode breakdown, but basically he was the whole show was about inspiring children to read, and so that is what he did.
All right, awesome. All right, so we've talked about what a cliffhanger is. Are there different types of cliffhangers?
Well, there's wire hangers, but you don't want to use those. Just kidding.
Well, there's the ones that are at the end of a chapter.
Yep.
Ones that are at the end of a scene, and then ones that are at the end of a book, and those are the ones that might lose you some readers.
Right, we'll talk about that for sure. But those are definitely the three types. I think that the scene cliffhangers are not as usually it's a chapter cliffhanger, right? Because and we'll talk about that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so what are cliffhangers not? If that's what a cliffhanger is, how do we know what it's not?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily like an action scene, right? So, I mean, it's not saying that they can't be. So when you say what they're not, just they're not always or not necessarily an action scene. And there's not necessarily an element of danger. So, I mean, I guess it's more like there's not just one way to write them more than what they're not, because they can very well be about danger or an action scene. We're just saying they don't necessarily have to be that. But one thing that they're not is just like a sudden ending to your chapter or your book or your scene. You just don't want to suddenly end the action of what's happening.
Right. There's gotta be a purpose there, right? Like it like say for instance, the chapter ends with she opens the door and says, you, and then the chapter ends. And then if you go on in the book and you never address who was at the door, that's not a cliffhanger. That's just bad writing.
Or if you don't care who's at the door because you've written it so poorly that it's just like, oh, thank goodness this scene is over. Let's move on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not a cliffhanger. Yeah.
I would say if you've written like a scene from one character's point of view and a scene from the second, and the second character opens the door and says you, but we already know it's the first character because of their scene, that's not necessarily a cliffhanger. True. Because we already know who's at the door. It's just that the character doesn't know.
Or if it's just a character that doesn't matter, like it's just the mailman. Yep, it's me. Here's your mail. And he's gone and doesn't have any effect on the rest of the story. That's also not a cliffhanger, right? There has to be a purpose in why you do it that way. So,
we should have a fun time writing the worst novel ever and put all of these examples of what not to do into one place. Like that would just be super duper fun. Like, what if you put like, don't do this, and then wrote the next part of the book showing how that would be terrible. Anyway, sorry.
That would be really fun episode, similar to I shouldn't say similar because it was a great episode that gave great advice, but our how to write a Hallmark Christmas movie, we should do something like that. How to write a really good novel that the whole world is going to love.
I feel like that would be so much fun to write a story, like how to write the worst book ever. And then like have your advice written in the form of a story with all the worst. That would be so much fun. That would be almost as funny as these books out there. Like, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but there is a book out there that became a bestseller that said it's called Reasons to Vote for a Democrat. And it's literally blank inside. And
and people bought it.
It was a bestseller.
I feel like I lost it. It's gone.
All right.
Wow, that's a cliffhanger right there.
It was just more shenanigans. Yes, it was shenanigizing. It was not important.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so as Christian writers, we have to talk about this too. Is there a balance? Do you think that cliffhangers can be too secular? Maybe.
First of all, before we move on, I remember. That contest of it was a dark and stormy night, which is supposedly like the worst opening sentence ever of a book. Every year there's an annual contest to like one up that and do better. So if we were going to have an episode, we should try to parallel, like do it when that contest comes out. Do you know what I mean? So we can be like, not just the best opening, but the best worst novel. Anyway, okay. That's it. That was it. Okay. So your question again is there any time we shouldn't do it? Can you reframe the question for me?
I did it really well the first time, and now you got to do it. No. Oh my cliffhangers goodness. Be too secular. As Christian writers, should we be concerned about having a too secular cliffhanger?
Well, okay. I think this is another case. I'm a broken record with this, that you have to know your audience. If your audience isn't into thrills and chills, if they would, sort of not buy your book. Although I feel like anybody who would buy Christian fiction isn't necessarily. I mean, the Bible has. I'm all over the place with my answer, but
so I have an
main answer is
answer.
your audience. Go for it, Jen.
I have an answer. So because we read the Bible so much, we probably don't notice the cliffhangers as much because we know what's happening. But when I was when I was 5 years old, I remember sitting in children's church, and I remember what was being taught, and I remember how I felt, and I remember walking out of kids' church bawling, and my mom's like, "What is the matter?" And I'm like, "Mom, they killed Jesus." And I was just a wreck. And my mom, I remember my mom holding me, and she's like, "Honey, it's okay." But she didn't tell me. Like, as much as she held me and loved me and comforted me, she did not tell me, because my mom knew the next week I was going to get the answer to the cliffhanger, right? And like, I don't know that she really realized what she was doing, but like as a kid, that was so much more impactful for her to do that than for her to say, "Honey, it's okay because he came back to life," because she didn't. She like let me like live in the cliffhanger for a while and to really experience like the grief and like the weight of what happened to Jesus, not just what he did for us. Like when you think about it, Friday is what happened to him, and Sunday brings all around to like, this is what he did for us, right? Like kind of, kid, at least is how a kid sees it. And so the Bible for sure uses cliffhangers. So, and the goal isn't to torment your readers. Like it's a tool to use to keep your readers turning the page. We talked last week about ways to keep your readers turning the page, and this is like one of those ways to do it. So
yeah, and if you're not necessarily thinking about like the money aspect of like, ooh, I'm going to get more ducats because I'm so good at writing these cliffhangers, it's good for your reader. Like your readers like it. Like you're actually, entertaining them, which is kind of the point.
And it's not like you're taking hope out. I feel like with cliffhangers, that is like a way of putting hope in your book, because you have the cliffhanger and then you have the result afterwards. And so like, I think it would be really hard to write hope in a book without having any sort of cliffhanger or any sort of moment where your characters have to like rely on the Lord, or your reader is just like suspended, like, what's going to happen next? They turn the page because they're hopeful that the character is still not going to be literally hanging off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
Well, and as Jason says, a lot of people will skip Saturday, speaking of the Bible narrative, instead of living in the loss the people of the Bible felt, which, yes, that is delicious to a reader also, to like live in the wonder of what's going to happen next. Like Tina was talking about having to read through a whole nother like chapter before you get the resolution of your cliffhanger. There's a good feeling there. It's a pleasurable pain, right? Hurts so good. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just feels good to cry.
I had breakfast with a friend yesterday who's going through a lot. I'm going through a bit of stuff too. And she said that the church she had visited had the pastor talked about like the wilderness, about, the Israelites. And one of the things that he said that struck her was, don't waste the wilderness. And I was like, oh. Like we're in the cliffhanger, like we have the cliffhanger and we want the resolution really fast in our own personal lives. But like there is a reason for the wilderness, and God is in the wilderness. Even if like the reason is just to get you to the resolution, God is still in the wilderness. Right.
He was in the wilderness with the Israelites for 40 years, leading them around with pillars of fire and pillars of cloud.
Yeah, he never left them. Just because they didn't get to go to the promised land right away, he never left them. He's not left me.
There was some refining that had to happen.
Right. So I think that when we talk about the responsibility of writing cliffhangers as Christians, but also just as writers in general, is that you need to avoid emotional manipulation too. Like I hate when a writer will use a cliffhanger just to try to get us emotional. It's a reader can tell if you're just trying to do something just to evoke an emotion. It's okay to evoke emotions in your writing if it's done in a way that like there's a purpose. But if you just all of a sudden take like the favorite character, Catherine Carroll's gonna blast me right now. If you just take the favorite character and you throw them down a mine shaft and you let them die, for no purpose, then that's just emotional manipulation. But if there's a purpose, Catherine, if there's a reason and you use
this
that,
is very specific.
This is very specific, possibly. Catherine says, "Tell me more, Jen." Oh, I guess everyone else who's listening is just going to have to read my books, and then you can have conversations with Catherine, and she can slam me in my writing. What else do we need to be careful of, ladies?
Oh, well, I mean, you're hinting around, but you're basically also saying, just treat your readers with integrity. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have some respect for your readers and not kind of jerk them around. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how the books sell the way that they do when they're so, as you say, you can kind of tell what's going on there, And then I guess it's a matter of buying on one premise and then not realizing what you're getting into in a lot of cases. But, if you don't have any respect for your reader and you're just jerking them around and you don't have integrity in your writing, it's going to show.
Agreed. I mean, it's a balance, right? Like you're going to balance the page turning with like your themes of hope and faith. And I really think that hope and cliffhangers have to go simultaneously, but you have to maintain that trust with your reader. Like if I put in cliffhangers and I kill one of my characters or harm one of my characters, but there's no redemption of what there's no like something that comes from that. I just do that to throw a cliffhanger in, or I do that to kill somebody. Then like your readers are going to stop trusting you. They're going to not want to turn the page anymore.
Yeah, and
there's no hope.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry to talk over you. That's an expectation in Christian fiction, right? I remember I saw a movie a few years ago, and it was just like not a single likable character like survived till the end of the film. It was basically just a movie of like, how many different ways can we hurt and harm people? And I was just like, what is the point of this movie? Because as you said, there's no redemption. Nobody had like a happy ending. I mean, and then I was just kind of like, this feels really super duper pointless. And I wasn't even going into this thinking it would be Christian in any way. And so even though, of course, it's an expectation for Christian fiction, I think it's an expectation for like good fiction in general, because what is just the point if it's the same thing? And so even if we're not talking about carnage, what if it was just a never ending series of cliffhangers, right? Like it wouldn't,
like a soap opera.
And those feel a certain level of shallow, don't they? They don't feel like they have depth.
And even when somebody dies, like there's this like this, they brought people back so many times from the dead that you're just like, are they really dead?
Very true.
Resurrection and
we thought JR was dead, and they will never trust them again.
Good grief, right?
Okay, so let's talk some more about cliffhangers and types of cliffhangers. Are there different types of cliffhangers, ladies?
Definitely. There are emotional cliffhangers.
All right, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, I could just read the thing, but I want to come up with examples.
Emotional cliffhangers.
I'm thinking of your books, John, and especially the one where it was your second book where he thought it was the other sister, but it was actually Phoebe. Am I right?
Yes.
Actually, I got the names mixed up.
Nope. Sarah and Phoebe.
There were some very emotional cliffhangers in that book because, like, he was interacting with the wrong he was interacting with the right sister, but he thought it was the wrong sister. Yeah. And so like you're left like in this emotional place of, oh my gosh, like when is he going to realize the truth?
You probably I can tell you what scene you're thinking of too, because this is a scene that I reworked, and you guys as my writing group have seen it several times before it ever went to print. Was the Red Roses scene where he's ready to confess, he has feelings for her, and then the sight of these red roses bring up a past that memory of his, and then he walks away from her again, and the reader should be on the edge of their seat going, no, like you need to like tell her, and then you'll realize who she is. And the fact that he walks away leaves the reader hanging. So is that the one you were talking?
Yes, that's exactly it. And I can't remember the details, so I was trying to talk about it without remembering the details. But yeah,
and I just to go with what you're saying, Tina, I believe that good romance is going to have a lot of those emotional cliffhangers, right? Because that is what the reader is building up toward the payoff of the happily ever after. And so if you're writing good romance, it's going to have emotional cliffhangers.
And I don't think I've ever read a romance, and I don't read a lot of them, but I used to, where there's not like a total misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Where like they're mad at each other, but that they have it all wrong, and
one conversation could just resolve everything.
Yeah.
And as the reader, you know the truth, and you're just like want to shake these characters for not just say it, because then it would solve everything. But like, yeah, like the misunderstandings and the delayed resolution, that is the hallmark of literally hallmark of romance novels for sure. So I would definitely say that's what a good example of emotional cliffhangers. All right, what other kind of cliffhangers do we have?
Well, there's situational cliffhangers. You're going to have that example in my sprint today.
Okay.
That's where we end up with some kind of mystery or unanswered threat or danger.
Ooh, I cannot wait. I actually, now you say that, I have both emotional cliffhanger and situational cliffhanger in mind today. Very excited. I'm excited. I hope that mine works out. But anyway, okay. So those, I think situational ones are possibly the most common in cross genre. If you ask me, okay. So that would include physical cliffhangers, right? Will
yes,
we agree that that's also yeah.
That's why you're actually physically hanging off the cliff.
That's what immediately comes to mind when people think about cliffhangers, I think, most of the time. I don't think that they really recognize the other types as readily.
Right.
Okay, what about spiritual cliffhangers? Would you say that would exist as well? Like, or internal? Like if you're a Christian writer, but you're not writing Christian fiction, would you like maybe, are there such things as like internal cliffhangers?
Well, yeah, because you have a character who, well, in the Christian fiction, they need to have faith for something, but their faith is wavering, and you don't know what they're going to, like, which side they're going to fall onto in the end. And if you end a scene in that spot or the chapter in that spot, the reader is like, come on, you got to get it together, and you want to read the next chapter to find out if they do.
Mm-hmm. I think that using like God's calling in your life, but like we know in real life that God can call you something, but it doesn't mean that immediately you're in that calling. Like lots of times there's work that has to be done. There's a lot of faith you have to go down a road that God's leading you on, and you don't know either where it's going to end, or you don't know how you're going to get to the end if you know what the end is supposed to be. I think that also would qualify as like a spiritual cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Okay. How do the stakes shift depending on whether or not you're doing a series or a standalone?
Say stakes shift 10 times fast, Jen. I dare you.
I had a hard time saying it one time. You know me. I stutter all my words all the time.
How do the stakes shift?
So like if I have a standalone and I know that I'm not going to have another book come out after this, is that going to affect the way that I do cliffhangers as opposed to a series? I think that Tina needs to speak to this because I think I
got accused of using a cliffhanger in my first book, but it was actually an epilogue. So it wasn't technically a cliffhanger because I resolved the story that was being told in book 1. And then the epilogue had a cliffhanger.
Which technically is a cliffhanger,
right?
However, it's totally okay to do that if you've resolved the real story of the novel.
I resolved the actual story of the novel. I left and I kind of feel like, why would you put an epilogue for your next book into the end of your book and then not have a cliffhanger?
Well,
Like
it depends on the
oh,
genre. I do an epilogue just so that people can get a little peek into their romance into the future, like them being married or having kids or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, I guess like mine was like she turned the river and then, she was gone. Like,
Mhm.
what's gonna happen? You gotta read the next book to find
Yeah.
out. Yeah, and I see that a lot. And I
Mhm.
think it's effective because you want to know, like you've invested in these characters for an entire story and you've seen them have like victory or resolution or whatever it is in this story, but the overall story, like this problem that they're facing in this book is resolved, but their overall story is not resolved.
Mhm.
And I think that it's a measure of whether you did it well or not, as to like you can gauge from the responses, because some people will be like, oh man, now I have to read this whole other book because they have like completionist mindset. And some people are like, oh, I just can't wait to get that other book so I can see what happens, because they do like your characters and they are invested in what is going on. So
Either way,
be
win-win. They're both going to read the next book.
Whether they love you or hate you, like just give me your money. No, I'm just kidding.
From the author's perspective, for sure.
All right, real quick, we're going to list off just a few examples in case like you want to go back and read some. I would say that Karen Pink Kingsbury is a master in what I call subtle cliffhangers, because if you ever read any of her her series, the Baxter family, she has all these family stories intertwined. There is one like love story that is like kind of is in that book that you're reading, but you meet the other characters and their stories kind of start while you're reading that. So then when you finish that love story and you see the next book is about the characters that you've already met and you're kind of like in love with them anyway, then it makes you want to read. So you get enough of the other characters that are like minor characters in the book, but then end up being the main characters of like another book. So I think she's a master of that. So what about some other authors? Tina, you'd mentioned Ted Decker. You're a fan of his.
Yeah. That I just can't think of an example. Like my brain just went blank. So.
That's okay. I know
in
that
general,
like
he's got a lot. It's just in general. Pick a book, any book.
Like
really.
He's got the Circle trilogy, where like the books are called Black, Red, and White, and it's like a circular story. And so I'm pretty sure there's cliffhangers in there, but I just can't think at this moment. Sorry, what the actual cliffhangers were.
Another romance, but she doesn't write just romance. She also does just historical. But Francine Rivers does a really good job of writing cliffhangers within the book. Like she definitely you want to go on to the next chapter, even if you're like some of her books. I'm just like, like I need a break. I need to walk away. But yet I'm like, I got to at least read the first page of the next chapter. I got to see what's going on. So she's really good at it as well too.
Not Christian, but old enough to have like basically zero spice for our timeline, even though if you were born when this novel was published, you'd probably be like, how spicy? Because they like men and women are talking to each other. So this book is called Far from the Maddening Crowd by Thomas Hardy. It's from 1874. And it's just full of tension because you want these characters to be together, and yet circumstances happen where they're not together. And then you're like, are they going to get together? And so the whole book is like one of those examples of romantic cliffhangers that we were talking about from the olden days.
And I think if you want to talk other media, I think there's an old show called Lost that everyone was into back in the early 2000s.
Oh my gosh, I hated that show.
But you got to admit, like they really were really good with a cliffhanger. And I think The Chosen does a really good job with cliffhangers. Like when I finish an episode, I want to go on to the next one, even though I know what's going to happen. Like it's right. I know what's going to happen in this story, but I still want to continue watching that show. So, okay, let's move on and give some actual meat potatoes to our listeners and talk about how do we write effective cliffhangers. What's the first thing we need to start with?
Steaks.
Like medium rare.
T-bone.
Yeah, I know. I'm so hungry.
Medium rare ribeyes.
No. Steaks. STAKES. Steaks.
Yeah. Right. So what is the character going to lose if, at the end?
Or
Like
gain.
there is something that your character wants.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something standing in the way of that. And are they going to get there or not? Like that's kind of classic, I think.
Like, right. Like something that's going to like shake up their world. Like, what does it mean to them personally or spiritually? Like something that is like that they like, what's at stake for them? Yes.
And there's a good example of that in my sprint today about something that could shake up somebody's world.
All right.
Ooh.
What is the next thing that we need to do?
So you've built the stakes, and then you have to first of all, you have to make sure you haven't already done too many, right? But anyway, then you have to.
This is where plotting comes in, people. Plotting.
Then you have to place them in the right spot, right? And let your quieter chapters breathe. Don't feel like you always have to be having a cliffhanger.
Go back to last week's episode if you want to know what we mean by that.
You got it. You got it. And then make sure that you cut away at the right moment and end on an interruption, a revelation, or a question. Like who's at the door in our other example.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes you just literally, we talked about this last week, to go back through when you're done writing, go back through and see at the end of your chapters, are there any missed moments? Is there anything you could have done to make it more of a cliffhanger? Like if you end a chapter in the same scene, you start the next scene from another person's perspective, can you somehow make it a cliffhanger towards we want to turn the page to the other person's perspective? So sometimes it's just as simple as going back and through and looking at what you've already written.
Mm-hmm. And then the interruptions thing, I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Deadly Hope. And it's a Christian book, but it's about like a security team of ex-Navy SEALs, and they're like protecting this lady from someone who's trying to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in this safe house, and the chapter's coming to an end, and then suddenly like something else happens, and now they have a new crisis where they have to they got like 15 minutes to get on the plane and leave. So there's like cliffhangers like that are interruptions. Like they thought they had a plan, and then boom, something came in and changed the plan.
I love that. I love that there's a time associated with it. I know we're reading this, but as adults, as people, when we're reading through it, we can feel that clock ticking, because we know how much things can actually happen in 15 minutes, right? If you try to say like, okay, we got to bake this cake in 15 minutes from scratch, we all know that as they're doing all the ingredients, we're like, this is impossible, right?
And like they were in a cabin in a snowstorm, and they had to get out in 15 minutes and get on their helicopter and leave.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Like, yeah, it was really well done.
And so you say really well done. So what I'm going to say is probably the next thing as writers, you need to make sure you do, that I'm going to guess that this author did, is there has to be a payoff. Like if you're going to do this cliffhanger, the payoff is critical. When you can't just like do some sort of cliffhanger and then just drop the ball. Like there has to be some sort of payoff for the author turning the page. Now, like, I know
in my example, if you turn the page and it was like a week later, that would have been like, wait,
that would be horrible.
What happened?
Yeah. Yep. So make sure you deliver. The payoff is critical. Okay. So we're going to talk about some common pitfalls. We've taught you how to do it. What are some things that we should not do?
I think Jamie already mentioned overuse. Like you don't want to do it every chapter, or it just gets old. Right. Right. And you don't want to stop abruptly. You kind of have to work up to it.
Yes. Like, right. Like if I just am writing a regular chapter and I decide I'm just going to end that chapter and people be like, what's going on? That's not going to make them turn the page. That's going to make them think that you're Lulu.
Right.
Like
you have to build the tension.
Yeah.
Like if you don't build the tension, if you just like cut it off, like your readers just left confused. But if you build that tension, they're like, oh, I gotta know. I gotta figure it out. Like, so I need to turn the page.
Another problem is like unresolved like cliffhangers, threads, especially across a series. If you're writing a series and you have something happening in this series, like as a cliffhanger, and you don't resolve it in the next book, then you're going to lose readers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And then I think your tone is important too. I think that if you are going from something like you kind of alluded to this, if it's something super tense and then like you're going to go into a cozy scene afterwards, then like that is disgenuine to the reader. Again,
like 3 weeks later, they were around the hearth roasting marshmallows. It's not a good like scene to have after like we have 15 minutes to get out.
Right. And I'm not saying that cozy novels and cozy mysteries cannot have cliffhangers. They absolutely can, but they have to match the tone. The tone that you were talking about would not fit in my novels. It just would not. But do I have cliffhangers? I most certainly do have cliffhangers.
Right. Exactly.
So you just have to keep it balanced. Okay. So I think that delivering the satisfaction, we're going to kind of move on a little quickly, but we're what about like payoff for a Christian cliffhanger? Like if I'm writing Christian and I'm going to do a payoff, what is the number one thing you think that we have to make sure that the payoff includes?
Well, I don't know about number. I have like 3 in my mind.
Okay, let's hear it.
When your faith becomes sight.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that you've been having faith for through the whole book finally becomes a reality. When your calling becomes clear and you actually walk in it.
Yes.
And your resolution, that whatever you've been wrestling with God, that is the resolution, whether it's a miracle, whether it's just you have finally had a revelation and you have become obedient to God. Like those.
Yes. Love it. I love all of that. That was way better than what I was going to say. So I think that as Christian writers, like that is a great way for us to bring about the resolution and the payoff for our writers. All right. So Jamie's had to step away for a second, but we're going to keep moving on here. And it's time for Jamie's favorite part, which I'm sure she's going to be so sad here for a second, but we're going to move on to our feeding of the backs. This is where we alluded to it earlier, that every week we take the same prompt and we all write to that same prompt. We do not edit. We do not look at it again. And then because we're a little bit crazy, we share it live here on the podcast for the world to see. So because we don't edit it, we also do not give criticism. We give encouraging and positive feedback. So Tina, I'm going to have you go first. Would you please share with us what the prompt was and then share your writing with us, please?
We had to write a scene from our work in progress that ended in a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like you were saying, we're crazy and we read these. This is the 305th time I've done this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so scary anymore.
It really isn't, but it is a little crazy still. The fact that we do it. Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit.
And I think the whole purpose is to show other writers that it doesn't have to be polished and perfect the first round through.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do this, the more, like when we first started, it was really hard to have a resolution at the end of the scenes. But now I feel like we like are in the groove and we are really good at doing it.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion, maybe. So
it's our writing muscle. It really is a thing. Writing often helps with your writing.
Okay, this is a scene from Shaken in the Land of the Midnight Sun. Something woke Angelica in the midst of her dream. Or was she still dreaming? A rumbling sound echoed through the cave where she and Taslina slept. The fire had burned down to embers and painted the walls in soft orange light. Was this another vision? Taslina snored softly from her furs, undisturbed by the rumbling. And Angelica could feel it now, vibrating beneath her. Tiny pebbles on the cave floor danced to the strange drumbeat. Angelica searched the dark corners of the cave, expecting the dragon to materialize from the shadows, blowing flames at her from its maw of sharp teeth and fangs. She pushed herself to a seated position, still feeling the vibrations in her bottom. This was the strangest vision yet, and she almost preferred being chased by the fire-breathing dragon. Angelica rose to her feet, the ground unsteady beneath her. She put her hand on the cave wall to steady herself, but the wall tried to shake it away. The overwhelming sense of not being in a cave at all, but trapped in the belly of the dragon, enveloped her, and the walls seemed to close in around her. She felt heat rise into her neck and face. She stumbled toward the entrance of the cave. If I'm going to lose my dinner, she prayed silently, please let it wait until I'm outside. Angelica stumbled as the ground did its best to knock her from her feet. Her heart was racing and her mind searched desperately for meaning that would explain this strange vision. Finally, Angelica made it to the mouth of the cave, sucking in the cool, crisp air as she clung to the edge of the wall. The ground shook even harder. A large crack echoed through the night. Angelica? She turned to see Teslina sitting up, gaping at her with eyes filled with terror, bracing herself against the floor with her arms as everything around them shook like the pebbles that had danced on the cave floor. Angelica, Teslina was screaming now. Get out, out now, find a clearing. Teslina attempted to push herself to her feet, swaying as if in a ship in raging seas. And then the roof caved in on top of her, and where Teslina had stood, there was only a large pile of rubble.
Tina! Whoa. Oh my gosh. That was so good. Okay. So the imagery, awesome. The cliffhanger, awesome. Like, what happens to Teslina? What's going on? Like, that was so well written. And like, I know you finished this book already, right? Like,
well, I'm in the revision.
Oh, so this could actually end up in the book or something similar.
It could.
Yeah, really well done. I really like it. I don't know if Jamie had time to hear enough of it to be able to get.
I didn't. I'm very depressed about that, but it's I'll have to read it. I know you've got it in the folder.
Yeah.
I just see Jen's reaction now. I'm jealous that I missed it.
Yeah, it was really good. Lots of like imagery, a vision. She was caught in a vision, and like the fiery, like it was just really well done. Good job, Tina.
Thanks.
So, all right, I will go next. And mine is in Widows of the West 2. I don't know if everybody's gonna know enough of the story to like care. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Okay. Excuse me. I know you don't mean that, Shane said with a softness that nearly undid Charlotte. He took a step towards her, and everything in her being wanted to run into his arms. But then she caught a glimpse of something peeking out of his shirt sleeve. The scar, ugly and jagged, just like her past. A past that very well could have put that scar on his wrist. Shane deserved so much goodness in this life. A goodness that she, a scar maker, could never offer him. She took a step back. I mean every word I just said, she lied. And if you were being honest, you'd agree. I'll never agree that we shouldn't be allowed to love one another. Of course you wouldn't see it that way, she said, swallowing hard. Someone like you doesn't have the capacity to understand the world. The words felt bitter coming off of her own tongue, but the look on his face soured her stomach even more. Someone like me? Yes, she said with a confidence she didn't actually own. Negroes don't have the same capacity for intelligence as whites. Now, mind you, I don't fault you on your birth. It's just a fact of nature. But if you had more white in you, I'm sure you'd be able to see some common sense. She knew that her words would anger him. Anger is what she needed to separate from him. But her heart hadn't been ready for the sheer disgust that registered on his face. He said nothing further until he was on his horse. He turned to look at her. Well, Mrs. McLean, you can be sure that this will be the last time you have to deal with this ignorant Negro. Charlotte held the tears back as she watched him ride away. Then she ran for the barn to let her tears flow freely. But as she stepped into the shadows of the cool barn, the hair on the back of her neck stood up. As if out of a nightmare, a figure stepped out of the shadows of one of the stalls. Hey there, sissy. I finally found you.
Oh, no. I thought him leaving was going to be like a part of the cliffhanger. And I was like, oh my gosh. But this is, and now like the one person that can help her is she's just like ticked him off.
Yep.
And he's gone. And now she's dealing with this other thing. Oh my gosh.
And I know
right now what's going to happen.
And I knew something like this was happening in the story, but I kind of rushed it. I would like to like work some more on this. And you guys have no idea who the person is in the shadows, but the reader who reads the book, once they hear sissy, they're going to know exactly who it is. And it's going to be like, no. So that's what I meant. I had 2 cliffhangers. Yes, him leaving, that's a cliffhanger. But then this is like the, what? And you nailed it, Tina. The one person who could save her, she's just sent away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think we lost Jamie.
We did. She actually has, like, I think a little work emergency or something that she has to deal with, and that's understandable. So, which is a bummer, because if you notice the balloons behind her, those are left over from her birthday, and I want to wish Jamie a happy birthday. Her birthday was on Wednesday, and I felt so bad. I missed it. I texted her last night when I realized it, but happy birthday.
I had a toddler and I missed everything.
So happy birthday, Jamie.
Yeah,
we're so happy that that you were able to be with us some today, and we miss you right now. But so anywho, we're gonna move on to like what's up, what's happening next for you, Tina. So what's going on with you. Well, and the chat, please join us with that. So we want to know what's going on with everybody.
This is a little deep. Mm-hmm. So I hope this isn't too deep for some people. But when I first got out of the hospital, one day during my devotions, the Lord gave me an entire outline for a nonfiction book.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
On the topic of being intimate with Christ. Mm. And I haven't written anything because I've been having this feeling like not being worthy to write it because I haven't perfected the topic. Mm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I don't 100%. Feel like I am shouldn't I have this down in order to write it? Like, that's the kind of, and so then I went to this women's Bible study last night with my friend Tanya, and the lady was talking about shame and exchanging shame for grace. And she, at the beginning of before she ever started talking, she asked us to silently rate our relationship with Christ, a rating of 0 to 10. Oh. And I gave myself a 6. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, after she talked about, it was so good, and I could just go into everything she said, like it was like I was getting slapped around. That's what was happening, like the whole time. And then at the end, she said, there are only 2 right numbers to that question. Because your relationship with Christ has nothing to do with you. It has to do what he did. What he did for you. So the only right answer is either 0 or 10.
Wow.
And I'm like, I've been not writing this book because I felt like I was like at a 5 or a 6. Mm-hmm. And if God gave me the outline during prayer, like, who am I to say that I'm not worthy to write the book? It's not my book.
Exactly.
So I think I'm going to, so I told you all that to say, I think I'm going to sit down and start writing this book.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that, Tina. I am so happy. You know what came to mind as you were talking? When I had this crazy idea that we should start a podcast and it should be on YouTube. One of the biggest arguments I got from all 3 of you was, who would listen to us? We are not experts at all. And I was like, but that's the point. Like, we're going to take everybody on this journey with us, which is where kind of our tagline came from, that, that we say at the beginning of every podcast. And so as you write this book, you're going to be on a journey with the Lord, and God is going to teach you about intimacy with him, and just happen to have a book at the end of it that you can share with others.
And how I didn't realize that when I've been teaching the Bible for 20 years, and I know that the teacher is always the first student. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it was just a revelation last night. Like, I have literally let my shame at not feeling like I wasn't good enough keep me from doing what God obviously gave me to do.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I still have to do the revision on my fiction book, but I'm kind of feeling like this is a priority. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if I can do both at once. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that's awesome. Well, so my what's up is very similar to last week. I'm still really struggling with headaches. You probably tired of hearing this. I feel like my whole adult life, it's been a problem. But I find it really difficult to be creative when I'm struggling with a headache, but I can do business stuff. So I've been spending a lot of time in the business side of my authorship. Real quick, Jason in the chat says the cross wasn't just for our sin, but also for our shame. Agreed, Jason. I'm able, so I've been like doing lots of business stuff. I've been working on behind the scenes Instagram stuff for both the podcast and for the for myself. No, I haven't published anything for myself yet, but just kind of coming up with a game plan for that, and and working on things. That last week, after the podcast was done, I just sat in my office because it's quiet in here. Right. And I took the headphones off and I just did a bunch of stuff. And the ladies were like, Jamie even texted me when she saw some of the stuff I had done. And she's like, go, Jen, go. But it's like, no, I can't get myself to do anything else. So Jason says praying for you, Jen. I was struggling with that for a long time. I appreciate that. And I know, so I suffer from tension headaches, which I know. So that's good, because for years they went misdiagnosed and the doctors just want to medicate me all the time because mine are so bad that literally like it takes like all of the muscle framework on my head pulls, and then I didn't know where the pain was originating because I have pain everywhere on my head. Like usually you can feel it back here. So something is out of a line or there's something wrong because it's like really bad right now. Or maybe I'm just under a lot of stress right now. That's a possibility too. So yeah, I do covet your prayers and I appreciate that. But also I think I'm getting together some ideas for us to talk about some more. We've been talking a lot about craft recently because that's kind of the space that our minds have been in. But I think I'm getting ready like to put together some like new marketing podcast episodes for us to talk about like little ways that we can as authors market in social media without it killing us, because I hate social media. I know that we're on right now on YouTube and I know that like we have social media and but I'm just it gets me down, honestly. And so, but I think there's a lot of good to it too, because I still go to social media for those accounts that encourage me. Right. So
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't think it's a complete evil. I just yeah. Anyway, so that's where I'm been with my writing career right now, is just kind of the business side of it. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So if you want to share with us your what's up, please head over to our Facebook group. The link for our Facebook group is in the show notes. You can also come on over to Instagram. I'm getting pretty active over there again, because I told Tina this before we went live, is that I've kind of not been looking over there. But when I go to Instagram, the podcast Instagram, our feed is full of Christian authors. So like that's the nice thing about social media is algorithms. Like on my personal one, I follow like health and fitness people. I follow other Christians. I follow some political stuff, like light political stuff. I follow friends. And so my algorithm's like all over the place, but the podcast is very specific, and it's so nice to go over there and just see what Christian authors are doing, like, and who's getting their book covers designed and who's getting their author copies in the mail. And like it's just a fun space to be in. And I don't know why I haven't spent more time over there. So if you want to join us over on Instagram, you can find us there, as well as it's called Christian Indie Writers. That's what we are, Christian Indie Writers, no spacing, everywhere. Facebook, that's our Facebook page, not our group, but our page. Instagram, I think our ex got like completely, I think they deleted us because we did nothing over there. Oh,
did they?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe
I have to go check.
I tried going to my ex and I had like, I don't know, I had a lot of followers when it was Twitter, but I stopped going over there, and I went to go over there and they had deleted it. It's because I have inactivity. So I was like, oh, okay, well, oh well, didn't change my life.
Mine's probably gone then too, because I never go over there.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. That's what's going on with us for today. Any closing words, Tina?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone that joined us today, as well as those that are of you that are listening. Hey, if you guys have any idea for topics you'd like us to cover, you can always email us too at christianindywriters@gmail.com. Well, or at connect@christianindywriters.com, I guess is the one we should be giving out. And I guess that's it. So until next time, may your pen be prolific and your deadlines be met. May all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.